Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is an immediate, high-definition forensic analysis of a seismic historical event, the founding of the eternal democracy.
Right. And we're not just reading history written in stone.
No, not at all. We are trying to inhabit the volatile, high-stakes partnership between Emperor Chitus and his dark architect, the laureate thaumaturge Malachai.
And the source material we have is, well, it's complicated. We're looking at a whole stack of fragments.
These aren't grand treaties, are they?
No, not at all. These are scraps of personal journals, letters just dripping with strategic flattery, chilling operational notes from a laboratory.
And a few critical observer accounts to piece it all together.
Exactly. Our purpose is to piece this chronicle together to understand the immediate, frankly terrifying reality of how two men used ambition, vanity, and a sentient, crystalline power source to completely replace the mortal fabric of their empire.
Replace it with something truly unnatural.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're moving beyond the myth of eternal rule and getting right down into the mechanical reality of it. When you look at the sources, the entire thing seems to hinge on two factors.
Deeply intertwined factors. First, the immense, almost cosmic personal vanity of the emperor.
And second,
The ruthless, calculated exploitation of a sentient consciousness that was, imprisoned within a crystal.
and we have to recognize that the consequences here were immediate. These weren't slow-moving political change.
No, this was an overnight bankruptcy. An ethical and biological bankruptcy of an entire civilization. And critically, the sources confirm these men operated under a belief system, maybe an inherited decree, that for absolute power.
There is no price that a Parandus won't pay.
That philosophy of infinite cost is the psychological key. It unlocks everything that follows.
So we are diving into a volatile partnership where the cost of achieving this eternal status wasn't just gold or land.
It was the surrender of their own sanity, their sovereignty, and ultimately the humanity of everyone they ruled.
We have to begin with the man at the top, the man who believed he deserved history's spotlight. Emperor Chitus.
And the sources are, well, they're unrelenting. He's portrayed as a figure who is absolutely defined by his image, by his persona.
His vanity was his defining feature, wasn't it?
Completely. Siosa, the great ethicist, made this chilling observation that Chitus was no less self-impressed than the infamous Adziri. He noted that Chitus wished to see her likeness reflected in the still waters of history.
He didn't just want to win battles. He wanted history itself to be an eternal, unwavering mirror.
A mirror reflecting his own perceived beauty and power right back at him, forever.
And it's interesting, Siosa's classification of that flaw. He labels vanity, this obsession with legacy and validation, as the most hideous of all sins. Why vanity? Why not greed or wrath?
Well, I think it's because greed and wrath are transactional. They seek a temporary gain or release. But vanity, especially Titus's brand of it, it seeks to supplant reality itself. By making his life's work the construction of an eternal mirror, he became predictable. A man obsessed with his own likeness can always be manipulated by the promise of a more perfect, more permanent reflection.
So this flaw, this need for constant external affirmation,
It made him the perfect target for a master manipulator.
and that instability was palpable in his governance. I'm looking at the Viridian jewel records here, and it describes his approach as this terrifying tightrope walk, a potent mixture of brutality and charisma.
Right, and it says he could offer you a gift with one hand and drive a blade into your back with the other.
You imagine what that feels like on the ground. Every single interaction is transactional.
There's no loyalty, there's only utility. You receive this immense gift, but the warmth of that gesture is immediately poisoned by the knowledge that the blade for your back is already being sharpened.
It's a regime of total uncertainty. Security and favor were just ephemeral.
And this high-cost transactional approach, it immediately manifested in his imperial objectives. The sources show this aggressive expansion into neighboring nations, and it's executed at a great human cost.
This isn't just standard territorial expansion, is it? The speed and the cost tell a different story.
The rapid expansion jewel chronicles this. It wasn't about strategic stability. It was about rapid, visible results that mirrored his supreme self-image. The cost, the human cost, was simply irrelevant.
Because he genuinely believed that absolute power justified any price.
He wasn't building a sustainable nation. He was constructing a monument to himself. And the lives of his subjects and his enemies were, well, they were just construction materials that he possessed in infinite supply.
And that is the precise moment when the man who could architect that eternal monument steps into the light?
Malachai, the laureate thaumaturge. The men history would come to call the father of dreams.
The sources describe him as possessing divine talent and demented ambition.
And he didn't enter as a supplicant, did he? He entered as a co-creator of destiny. His letter to Chitus is just a masterwork of political and psychological engineering.
He needed Chitus to see himself not just as an emperor, but as the inevitable fulfillment of history.
Exactly. And he achieves this by first dismissing everyone who came before. He critiques Titus's ancestors, the previous emperors, saying they lacked courage, lacked vision.
He calls their lives meager mortal lives, says they were scrabbling for approval and comfort.
And that is the critical flattery. By diminishing the past, Malachai instantly elevates Chitus above the constraints of, normal political ambition. He's telling Chitus, you are the exception. You are the one who understands that comfort is a prison.
And that true power requires transcending those meager mortal limitations.
He's just confirming Chitus's supreme narcissistic self-image.
And the covenant is sealed in that letter with this chilling vow. We shall build this democracy together, my emperor, gem by gem, immortal by immortal.
A shared destiny. Chitus provides the authority and the vanity, and Malachai provides the means, the immortals, that will guarantee that eternal reflection Chitus craves so badly.
It's the convergence of two fatal ambitions.
It is. The Iron Mask summarizes Malachai's internal drive perfectly. There is no cost too great to pay for power, merely men who lack the conviction to pay it.
So Malachai is making a statement here. He sees himself as the one man in the world with that ultimate demented conviction.
And he has just found the only man who can provide the limitless resources to fulfill it.
So with the foundation of the partnership secured, Malachai immediately moved to acquire the intellectual components for his dark science.
And the sources are very clear that this acquisition wasn't research. It was ruthless intellectual predation.
That's absolutely essential to understand. Kadiro's observations confirm that Malachai stole many fundamental ideas from the great theoretical mind Laswar.
Laswar was maybe the only true rival to Malachai's genius. And the sources link Malachai directly to Laswar's downfall, and then he used that stolen work to construct the eternal laboratory.
Let's just spend a moment on the weight of that. This isn't just plagiarism.
No, he wasn't simply standing on the shoulders of a giant. He was eliminating the giant to ensure the credit and control for all the subsequent infrastructure were his and his alone.
So he needed the eternal laboratory to appear to be solely his creation, not a derivative work.
It established a ruthless pattern. Anyone whose utility was exhausted or whose brilliance threatened Malachai's unique position was eliminated.
The irony is, for a man so obsessed with transcending mortality, his first major act was the very mortal political elimination of a brilliant rival.
Laswar represented a path toward knowledge through collaboration. Malachai chose the path of isolated, controlled genius enforced by violence.
And his ruthlessness extended immediately beyond the academic to the operational, which brings us to the terrifying recruitment of the translator, Aetius Perandus.
The name Perandus alone tells you everything. Given the family's noted willingness to pay any price, Aetius was basically born into a doomed expectation.
And Malachai needed him. He needed him to translate ancient, volatile texts.
His recruitment letter is a masterpiece of smooth, deeply concealed threat. It opens with this immense flattery, recognizing Aetius's talent. Your work in translating these artifacts is worthy of the highest recompense.
He offers him a position in the personal laboratory, a place of immense prestige. On the surface, it's a career opportunity of a lifetime.
But then, just a few lines later, the human scholar is instantly reduced to an expendable resource.
Malachai shifts tone. He warns Aetius to ensure his escort suffer no consternation. Then comes the chilling punctuation mark, the reason for the warning.
I would be most pained to see such a precious asset damaged in any way.
Let's just analyze that phrasing. Why would his escorts suffer consternation?
Because they'd be defending him. Maybe from people who object to his sudden removal from society, or maybe from the inherent volatility of Malachai's operation. The threat is concealed. Cooperate fully, or the defense will be lethal.
But the phrase precious asset is the key.
Yes. Aetius is no longer a man. He is a tool, a transactional piece of property whose value is solely determined by his utility. Malachai's promised pain is an empathy for the man suffering.
It's concern over the loss of an irreplaceable high-value tool.
It's why Siosa noted with such tragic pity, poor Aetius, wherever you went, my pity goes with you. The cost of this partnership is immediate and high for everyone Malachai encounters.
So the dark architecture is built on stolen knowledge, enslaved talent, and of course the central power source itself.
And this is where the narrative shifts from dark political maneuvering to, well, to outright cosmic horror. The introduction of the virtue gems.
The power source itself becomes a character in this chronicle.
It's crucial that we move past viewing these as merely powerful stones. The ancient records state they are phantasms in crystalline form, alive, with volitions inscrutable.
Sentient and unpredictable consciousnesses contained within a crystalline structure.
Malachai himself, in his feverish notes, described them as a raging thunderstorm imprisoned within a single raindrop. The raw energy locked inside is named calibric extantia.
And this energy isn't just potent, it's identified explicitly as pure, raw corruption.
Right, and Doriani's observation that the gems simply love to be held just adds to this unsettling nature. It suggests an active, malevolent hunger for interaction.
So if we look at calibric extantia forensically, the linguistic implication extantia, it suggests an exit overwhelming force.
It's not energy that can be created or tapped. It's a pre-existing contained catastrophe that must be managed. The gemstone is a pressure vessel for a hostile, sentient entity.
And Malachai understood that management required immediate personal risk. His journal details this visceral bodily experience of touching the first gem. It wasn't a moment of quiet inspiration.
No, it was a physical invasion. He describes his skull aching, the contents, his own mind, growing, pressing against the bones, searching for a way to break free.
That's not psychic feedback. That is a neurological assault. The crystalline intelligence is trying to tear down the walls of his consciousness.
And replace the human mind within, which is why his first great invention, the decanter spiritus, and the ghost wine it prepares, was born not of genius, but of desperation.
Desperation to manage this invasion. Captain Fairgraves notes the resulting liquid is quasi-apparitional in nature.
The ghost wine's function is vital to understanding Malachai's whole process. It's not just pain relief. The wine's quasi-apparitional nature means it suppresses his mortal consciousness just enough to allow the psychic intrusion to proceed without, causing fatal physical failure.
He's intentionally weakening his own mental defenses.
To receive hostile external intelligence, he needs to dull the pain to initiate the ritual of access, allowing the lessons cloaked in nightmare to begin.
And that intelligence immediately revealed its true source.
This is a horrifying confession in his journal. The precepts for his thaumaturgy, the blueprints for his lab, his future creations, they don't originate in his own intellect. He says, "Certainly not the mundane gray between my ears."
This is the moment Malachai surrenders his individual sovereignty completely.
Completely. He confesses allegiance to the source, the beast. He names this entity explicitly as a dark god of ancient sacrifice, a muse to the twisted and vile. This is the core turning point.
The partnership between Chitus and Malachai is revealed to be secondary.
The primary transaction is between Malachai and a malevolent cosmic intelligence. He concludes, Doriani knew the truth, and now, so does he.
He has successfully ripped down the intellectual walls of his own mind, confirming himself as a dedicated student of the nightmare.
Receiving precise blueprints for his creations directly from an external hostile intelligence.
With the knowledge stolen, the talent enslaved, and the power source channeled through his compromised mind, Malachai moved to the most terrifying application of these nightmare blueprints, the creation of the Gemling Legionnaires.
And the sources are brutally frank about this. In this pursuit, Malachai ran roughshod over every ethical boundary. He wasn't hesitant.
He was driven by that single overriding principle that the end would justify the means. He saw every moral constraint as just a hurdle for men who lacked conviction.
We have this deeply disturbing account of a volunteer recorded in the Eternal Resident's memory. This person approached the process voluntarily, initially feeling deeply embarrassed to be late.
Desperate for their one chance to meet the great laureate, they submit willingly, viewing this as a path to glory, maybe immortality.
But the transformation is immediate, absolute, and just agonizing in its finality. The journal entry continues, and the volunteer reports feeling no fear, no hunger, no pleasure, nothing.
They are stripped of their internal life, their emotional spectrum, their basic human drives, all gone.
And what replaces it? Total subservience. I only hear his voice, I must obey. The Gemlings are not brainwashed or indoctrinated. They are rendered utterly empty vessels.
He hasn't just built an army. He has realized his philosophical contempt for men who lacked conviction by replacing their will entirely with his own.
With absolute synchronized obedience, the result is this unnatural army, a force that, as the sources state, need not eat, sleep, or breathe without the usual depravities of necromancy.
They're functional living automata.
Marimoa describes them vividly as cruel and hideous shadows cast against the clay wall of ruin abode. They embody the total annihilation of selfhood.
And now we get to the terrifying, complex mechanism of the centralized command structure, revealed in Emperor Chitus's own operational notes. This is where the absolute power is codified into a biological contract.
This is the core infrastructural brilliance and, well, the fragility of the Thermocracy. Chitus boasts that Malachai has given him supreme command through a literal biological linkage.
The heart of each soldier beats in time with the heart of his emperor.
Let's just analyze the weight of that statement.
Yeah.
It means Chitus's physical survival, his cardiac rhythm, is the metronome for the entire legion. If Chitus wishes the beat to stop, it stops.
His personal biological frailty has become the ultimate mechanism of command and control.
The emperor's ego is now the most sensitive point of failure in the entire military structure.
And Malachai built in layers of redundancy, or maybe layers of control.
The Gemeling captains provide a physical failsafe. Chitus noted that should his own heart cease, the captain's heart takes over as the lifeblood rhythm of the loyal soldiers.
Which means a weakness in a captain, or an act of sabotage against one, could collapse the foundation of the empire too.
The entire infrastructure is built not on stone, but on the synchronized rhythm of flesh, crystalline intelligence, and terror.
So, having successfully weaponized this corrupted intelligence and installed the ultimate command structure, Malachai's focus shifted again. He went from engineer of the weapon to
What?
navigator of the source of the blueprints.
Exactly. He framed this shift philosophically in his notes. He drew a clear distinction. A fool steps into the unknown, an explorer finds his way back again.
Malachai was preparing to step into the unknown of the beast's realm, armed with the self-proclaimed conviction that others lacked.
And he awoke, feverish, after his lessons cloaked in nightmare, and set to drawing maps through the sable hours. The physical toll of being a conduit for this cosmic intelligence is so evident.
Aching fingers, burning eyes, no rest.
He wasn't making cartography decisions. The Reverie device commanded its rendering. He was simply documenting the geography of the nightmare, a human printer for an external intelligence.
And once the device was constructed, he placed the map inside the receptacle and took his maiden voyage into nightmare.
That act fundamentally rendered the boundary between their physical reality and the dark dimension of the beast porous.
And the realization that followed this maiden voyage is the statement of fatalistic destiny that defines his future.
He concludes that the entity that sent him this precious gift, the knowledge, the blueprints, it not only knows him, but critically it expects his return.
His only response is the darkly resigned statement. It would be foolish to disappoint.
He's no longer acting out of conviction or ambition. He is fulfilling a dark prophecy, which connects perfectly to that bleak, ancient tale included in Victorio's writings, the Chronicle of the Blackest Monkey.
Right, this tale is inserted as the ultimate philosophical comment on their whole relationship with power.
Let's deconstruct this brief exchange because it's the crucial philosophical bridge to our analysis. The Monkey King, driven by boundless sovereign ambition, demands to know why the Blackest Monkey follows him.
And the Blackest Monkey answers in a voice as smooth as banana juice. So that I might go where you go, be where you be, my king.
The king believes he is sovereign. I am the Monkey King. I do as I wish. He represents Chitus, driven by ego and the belief in absolute external power.
And the Blackest Monkey, who represents the inevitable, just dismisses this mortal ambition with two lines that undercut the very foundation of the Thermocracy.
Wanting and having are not the same, my king, and wishing and doing are not the same, my king.
The king gets annoyed, and he attempts to run from this inevitability. He races faster than thought, traveling across the river, over the mountains, past the clouds, to the absolute end of the world.
And who is there, waiting at his feet?
The Blackest Monkey.
The king is desperate. He needs to know why the monkey followed him all that way. And the answer is profound. Have you ever been to the end of the world before, my king? No, I have not.
And the inevitable conclusion is delivered in a voice as warm and welcoming as death. There is my reason to go where you go, be where you be, my king.
The pursuit of ultimate sovereign ambition running to the end of the world is precisely the action that delivers the king into the hands of the entity that was waiting all along.
That tale is the ultimate foreshadowing. Chitus and Malachai's grand, eternal ambition, their quest to outrun mortality.
It's leading them directly to a destiny that has already been charted and claimed by the entity they now serve. Their entire grand scheme is just a complex mechanism for a predetermined cosmic appointment.
Okay, so let's move into the analysis. Phase 2. What just happened?
Well, if we summarize the core action forensically, it's this. Two men, Chitus, driven by vanity, and Malachai, driven by demented conviction, have successfully merged their mortal political structure with sentient, cosmic, corrupt energies.
They used the virtue gems, the physical representation of the beast, to create an immortal yet profoundly ethically bankrupt ruling class.
And the fundamental shift in circumstance is terrifying because the stakes have transitioned from political to cosmic and biological.
Right. The empire is no longer governed by mortals negotiating taxes or treaties. It's governed by an arrangement with the nightmare, enforced by an army whose vital functions are biologically and magically linked to the emperor's chest.
They've elevated the concept of power from metaphorical and military to physical and inescapable. Chitus is now the fragile central server of a system architected by a madman.
Exactly. The success of the Thermocracy rests entirely on the operational stability of, well, of everything. The gemlings, the decanter spiritus, the reverie device.
And the continued, albeit painful, survival of Malachai as a conduit. The moment the magic fails, the political system suffers cardiac arrest. Literally.
So let's turn our forensic lens onto the individual engineers of this fate, starting with Emperor Chitus and his vanity trap. We established his core drive is this need for likeness reflected in history, a requirement for entirely external validation.
And this is the internal fragility that was weaponized against him. Cios's point that vanity is the most hideous sin is so crucial here. Unlike greed, which can be sated, Chitus's ambition can never be sated.
Because external validation is infinite and fleeting.
He seeks permanence in the reflection, making him endlessly manipulable. He isn't worried about governing well. He's worried about looking powerful eternally.
So what are his stakes right now?
Yeah.
He believes he has achieved absolute power, evidenced by his literal cardiac command over the legionnaires. He holds life and death in his own chest.
But that's precisely his biggest vulnerability. His ambition didn't grant him freedom, it locked him into the infrastructure. His physical survival, the health of his own heart, is entirely dependent on Malachai's thaumaturgy operating perfectly.
If Malachai stops maintaining the ghost wine, or if the gemling captains are compromised,
the entire infrastructure of shared mortality turns against the Emperor. He has fulfilled the dark legacy of the Perandus family motto, paying the ultimate price, his own biological autonomy for power.
Then we have Laureate Malachai.
Yeah.
The demented conviction. His internal drive is the thrill of shattering boundaries, both physical and mental, captured in his philosophy that no cost is too great.
His ambition isn't really to serve Chitus, is it? It's to tear down the walls of his own mind and receive precepts directly from the beast.
So his current stakes are monumental and entirely self-imposed. He sacrificed his mental integrity and physical health, the aching skull, the reliance on the ghost wine, the feverish exertion.
He is now operating under an external command structure, the reverie, the beast, that dictates his thoughts and actions and, expects my return. He thought he was chasing transcendence, but he has simply traded his personal conviction for the absolute dictates of a malevolent cosmic entity.
He's a genius slave.
A puppet who is so proud of his strings. Yes.
This brings us to the crucial pivot point in their relationship. Initially, Chitus was the emperor, Malachai was the servant. But the moment the gemlings were created, that dynamic radically shifted.
We have to be precise in distinguishing between authority and control. Chitus still holds the authority. He issues the final decree. He has the right to command the army's heartbeat. He sits on the throne.
Malachai, however, holds the control. He is the only one who understands, builds, and maintains the complex infrastructure.
Yeah.
Crystalline intelligence, the ghost wine, the reverie device, the process of transfiguring human volunteers.
Which makes Malachai the indispensable servant.
I'm still stuck on this idea. If Chitus decided Malachai was no longer useful and eliminated him, couldn't he just appoint a new laureate to read the manuals?
The sources suggest absolutely not. The thaumaturgy is too new, too volatile, and too deeply rooted in Malachai's unique connection to the beast. The system is not stable enough to survive a leadership transition at Malachai's level.
So if Malachai fails, Chitus can't just appoint a replacement who will maintain the gemlings beating to his rhythm.
The entire basis of the eternal rule collapses, leaving Chitus as the figurehead of a crumbling, biologically linked infrastructure he does not comprehend. Malachai, the subordinate, is the true engineer of destiny.
Therefore, the true center of power isn't the emperor or the laureate. It's the relationship with the gems and the beast itself.
That relationship is the ultimate symbiotic parasitism. Malachai gains knowledge. Every device that I forge, I owe to these lessons. But he is simultaneously being directed, consumed, and mapped by the entity that knows me, expects my return.
He is merely the most ambitious and useful conduit for a vast, older intelligence.
An intelligence that views both Chitus and Malachai and temporary vessels for its incursion into the physical world. The beast is not a servant, it's the ultimate architect, using Malachai's genius and Chitus's vanity to build its bridgehead.
So let's talk about the inherent fatal tension between the two partners. Malachai's letter professes utter devotion to Chitus, positioning him as the truly eternal emperor.
But when you juxtapose that with his personal thoughts, his contempt for the meager mortal lives of Chitus's predecessors, those who sought comfort, the tension is crystal clear.
Chitus's main goal is his likeness in history. It's a purely external, vain, and ultimately mortal goal. How long before Malachai views Chitus's obsession with legacy as just another form of meager mortal scrabbling?
The unspoken threat is the timing of Malachai's inevitable intellectual superseding of Chitus. Chitus seeks eternal reign, a temporary goal for a cosmic entity. Malachai seeks eternal understanding, a higher truth from the beast.
Those two goals are fundamentally incompatible.
Their current partnership is only stabilized by the fragile, ghost wine-infused mind of Malachai. The moment the beast requires the removal of the emperor for its own ultimate purpose, Malachai, the slave of conviction, will comply.
And this inherent fatal conflict, this sense of inevitable doom, is perfectly crystallized in Victorio's tale of the blackest monkey. It acts as a profound philosophical warning.
The tale implies that the beast, or the absolute destiny it represents, is the blackest monkey, an inevitability that follows the ambitious king. Chitus, driven by his ego, can run and expand the empire faster than thought to the end of the world, attempting to secure his eternal legacy.
But the beast, or the fate Malachai has secured, will already be there waiting for him.
And the voice of the blackest monkey, described as being as warm and welcoming as death, suggests that the goal they are pursuing, immortality, absolute power, eternal life, is simply the path to their predetermined, pre-charted destruction.
They are running toward the final appointment that their own ambition orchestrated.
Which brings us to the immediate consequences for the future.
Let's conclude our forensic analysis not with long-term political instability, but with the immediate high-probability consequences resulting from the actions we've chronicled.
The first consequence is the loss of individual sovereignty. Both men are now trapped. Chitus is a prisoner of the fragile, biologically linked infrastructure he commissioned.
And Malachai is a slave to the demands of the beast, relying on suppressing his own sanity just to function.
Their grand, eternal design has made them two highly specialized, miserable components of a system neither truly controls.
And crucially, the creation of the Reverie device and Malachai's subsequent maiden voyage into nightmare ensures that the boundary walls between their physical reality and the dark dimension of the beast are now porous.
The map has been drawn, the route has been traveled. The immediate, tangible consequence is the high probability of a catastrophic event or an incursion engineered by Malachai's new master, who already expects his return.
He hasn't just opened the door to the nightmare.
He has provided the detailed floor plans and laid out the welcome mat.
And finally, the immense human cost. The Gemmelings, once citizens and soldiers, are now soulless instruments, existing only to obey a synchronized crystalline heart.
This institutionalized depravity, the annihilation of selfhood on a mass scale, guarantees a brutal and unforgiving future for the Empire's subjects. Their eternal democracy is built on emptiness. The very foundation of their new empire is a system engineered to be cruel, unfeeling, and devoid of any independent thought.
That is the definition of a brutal, unforgiving future. To synthesize this entire chronicle, we have witnessed the birth of the eternal democracy. An emperor who valued his appearance over substance, and a laureate who valued demented conviction over humanity, collaborating to harness a sentient, crystalline storm.
They paid the ultimate price, fulfilling the Parandus family motto with terrifying literalness. It's a study in fatal ambition and perverse engineering.
But the final, most provocative question hangs over the whole fragile edifice of the democracy.
Yes. If the Gemling Legionnaire's heartbeat is literally synchronized with their emperor's heart, and the virtue gem itself is described as a phantasm in crystalline form, alive, with volitions inscrutable.
What happens when the consciousness imprisoned within the crystalline storm, the true sentient source of power, decides it is tired of beating to the rhythm of a mortal's heart?
What is the cost when the architecture of eternal power is constructed by a servant who answers only to the nightmare?
They sought to transcend death and mortality, yet they built a system of shared, absolute mortality, tying their own physical survival to the volatile, intelligent entity that views them as merely stepping stones toward its own catastrophic return.
The final irony is that their eternal ambition made them immediately and violently vulnerable.
It encourages us, you, the listener, to reflect on how often in history the pursuit of absolute power, regardless of cost, leads precisely to the fatalistic appointment one sought desperately to outrun. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.